So I'm gonna admit the people to the space as well. I see a familiar face, that's very nice. We're gonna give a bit more time for people to join. Marion is already here, which is really nice to see because Marion will be our guest speaker today. And I will give you later also the floor to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi everyone.
Hi Jessica, hi Marion. We have some new participants here today. I think Mẫn is one of them. So a couple of people told me that they did not get the email about the first class. It went to their spam box, so they didn't know. Hopefully, more people can come tonight. Sorry if you heard a loud bang, that was the thunder.
No worries, all good. Yeah, of course, Marion, maybe you don't know yet, but in Vietnam, in Hanoi right now, it's 8 o'clock in the evening. So it's quite a different time schedule to our time schedule right now. And actually, Marion is also not in Spain with me right now, but she's in France. So very dissuaded today. I will be back in 1 second. I'm just going to close the door of the office. One moment.
Chào mọi người, hôm nay là buổi học thứ hai rồi. Không biết là trong các bạn ở đây thì có bạn nào đã kịp xem cái video mới được post lên tối hôm qua chưa?
Mình cũng cho vào lớp nên là cũng chưa kịp xem cái buổi hôm qua, nhưng cũng xem qua lại được cái chương trình này. Chào Mai và mọi người. Hello guys, I'm new to this class here.
So Mẫn has not had a chance to introduce himself so far because he did not receive the email for the last session, first session.
Yes,
yeah. So
my
later
name
on,
is Man.
maybe we, yeah.
Okay.
You
can go ahead.
Carry on. I was suggesting that later on you get a chance to introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Man and I'm an architect working in Hanoi. And I know Fab Lab and I have been doing something, several things with UNESCO as well. But yeah, great that I can join this class to see like how we can making this in Hanoi. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for having time to join today. That's really nice.
Is it very hot in Hanoi right now? Newspaper says it's up to 39, 40 degrees at the moment. That's crazy.
So I would suggest to wait 1 or 2 more minutes and let the people maybe join while we are slowly starting the session, just to keep a bit with the time schedule. And in the meantime, I will just introduce a bit what we're going to do today. So for the ones who have not been here last week we gave a brief introduction to distributed design in general and had a Miro exercise afterwards. Miro is a collaborative online tool in which we have shared our expertise and backgrounds of each of the participants. I am gonna look now again for the Miro link. So you may add, if you're new today, you may add your background maybe and your expertise as well, if you would like to. And today we're going to talk about sustainable design practices. And specifically, we're having here Marion Real, a dear colleague of mine, which is going to talk maybe a bit more about systemic design and how this relates to that and how it relates to distributed design as well in a way. Very important part. So thank you, Marion, so much for joining today. I know you are very busy as usual, but we're really excited to hear from you and to hear more about systemic design and sustainable practices.
Hi, Jessica, and hi, I start now, or we still wait?
You can
Okay.
introduce maybe yourself if you want, and then we can go.
Okay, so everyone, I'm Marian, and I'm working in the Fab Lab Barcelona for 4 years now. I was trained before as an engineer, more relating to human-centered approaches, and slowly I was interested in ecological design and systemic design. I had a PhD several times ago now, like 10 years ago, on eco-innovation. I was working with an agency, environmental consultancy agency, and an engineering school, and we were following the process of eco-design, eco-innovation inside companies in different sectors. And here we could integrate already some sustainable principle, eco-design approaches, and also think already how we can go from the product of the company to modifying a bit the whole ecosystem of stakeholder. And after having done this work, I also decided to work more at the territorial scale, and I started working on projects more in the regional and local level to see first how we could work with different stakeholders or multi-stakeholder processes for looking for circular economy action plan, for instance. And after also this experience, I went, so this was all in the Basque Country of France. I stayed there for 6 years. And after I moved in London, where I focused more on the textile industry. I worked in the Center for Circular Design, and I did some postdoctoral research here with already what has been presented a bit with a distributed design approach with Jessica last week, thinking about how we can relocalize production, specifically in the textile industry. So we had work with many big companies there, and my role was to explore how we could think about local, regional scale textile ecosystems, and how we close the loop, and how Fab Labs could play a role in those transformations. So this made me really discover also all the Fab City vision, the Fab Lab environment, and I decided to go to work, and I had the chance to work in the Fab Lab Barcelona. Still working on many different projects and looking at how we can engage locally stakeholder toward co-creation, but also co-creation for a more sustainable, or today it will be sustainable because we select this this word, but it's more like how we transform our own society towards something that is much more relevant and that makes sense now. So yeah, that's a bit the story, and I can start maybe presenting. I try to to walk a bit and through the different experience I have, and also the project of the Fab Lab to see what we name sustainable design, also all the question that is behind the sustainable approach. I think something it's great you mentioned, Jessica, is to relate how distributed design includes sustainability in their practice, and vice versa, how distributed design can also be a great insight for all the sustainable approach that already exists, and maybe it's already integrated in the DNA, no, at some point of distributed design. So let's see some initiative and method. I can share with you another presentation if it's fine.
Amazing.
Sorry, Marianne, maybe I missed it. But did you mention what's your PhD about? Is it related to sustainability?
Yeah, I will do the presentation on sustainable design.
Oh, I'm curious. Maybe you mentioned it and I missed it. But you said you did a PhD in.
Okay, my PhD, you mean it was on eco-innovation, and it was how to support the development of concepts when you are doing this kind of big eco-innovation strategy on enterprise or in small scale company also, and how you can try to work on what we name cognitive fixation. It's when you are locked in your own mindset, and for adopting sustainable practice, you really need to be able to more flexibility. And this the proposal in the PhD was just to look differently at the network that you have around, and to expand it, to change it, to see how it and also involving new actors that normally you're not working with, and to make inside your eco-innovation process. So it's quite situated.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting also to have background at some point.
Very interesting. Thanks for sharing. So I'm sure you're the right expert to talk to us on the topic of sustainable design. Yeah.
Great.
Carry on, please. Thank you.
Great.
Do you have the sharing possibility, Marion? Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Great.
Okay. So I think this talk is, as I was mentioning, we will try to talk about different aspects of sustainability. The idea is not, I'm not coming with a solution. When you talk about sustainability, it's really, really complex topic. And I think it's worth exploring what is what is behind sustainability, what is a bit the story, and maybe most of you know about what I will talk in the first part, but it's always nice to have, I think, a trajectory. And after, I will propose to you some mindset for sustainable design. So it's like tools and practice that you can integrate in your practice that will help you to do some sustainable design in your intervention. After, I want to try to understand also, because we don't know each other, but when we talk about design, it's quite wide, and we can talk about design at the city level, at the world level, at the product level, service. So it's interesting to see that some processes has been also like formalized, and that when we talk about sustainability, it won't be the same according to the type of system you are working with. And I selected some case study, and I hope we will have time to go through, so you can also have some insight from that. So I will start with the sustainability dimension. For me, what is important to say when we start with sustainability is that it's important that I guess, I don't know from your side, but when now we talk about sustainability, there is many people saying, whoa, I don't care about sustainability because it's not a good word. It's all fake. It's all greenwashing. So there is like connotation behind this word that is quite sometimes pejorative in this environment. but I think sometimes it's pejorative because we still want more and approaching more the changes that we want to have. So it's interesting to understand the ambiguity, the misuse, and in fact, all the imaginaries and representation that there is behind the sustainability. And that sustainability is not just a global aspect, it's also something situated and that we can work on in our own ecosystem. So I will just mention some, you will see a lot of diagram in the presentation. Just saying or reminding that sustainability mainly came with the sustainable development approach. And there is this report from the Brundtland Commission where it was defined as following. So meeting the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. And what we see is in fact, and I think we are now really familiar with this, what we name the triple bottom line. It's the combination between society, nature, and economy. And initially, what we have named weak sustainability, because it was not so engaged, is to see sustainable development as at the intersection between these three types of capital that is happening. So sustainable development as an intersection between nature, society, and economy. After, there was a lot of critiques of this model, and we have come with a more strong sustainability perspective, where in fact we see nature and environmental ecosystem as the basis, the ground, where there is the society and people part, and the economy is the integrated in society, in nature. So if we look at our economic model, and the activity that we are doing, the production that we are doing, it has a direct influence on society and nature. So this is quite basic, but it's quite interesting to see also the different way to associate the concepts. And this is also the basis. So after the 10 years of sustainable development, there was the Sustainable Development Goals who have been more specifically orientated to 17 goals that I think you all have seen these colors and the name of these goals. It's interesting, this approach, because it puts concrete name behind what we could see as a future strategy and goals. And it follows also all the integrated approach of sustainability, the strong sustainability point of view. The only thing that is also in progress, I think, is that it's super hard to think about the interdependence and the connection behind each sustainable development goal. So for a company, for people, for an organization, for a country, for a region, is now the trend a bit to have a plan of sustainability by selecting some of the main objective and to make like visible the type of engagement that you have in all, and you use it for your sustainability reports. You put some number also for the future year. So your objective of for this agenda, it was 2030, but now it's adapted to over time frame also. So from one side, it's great because we have really an overview of who is working on what and how we build together a future on those topics and responding to the goal. What is super complex is to have an integrated view on, for instance, if a company is promoting a climate action, how this action that they are doing will influence on the other activity. For instance, how climate action and poverty are related. This is something that is being considered a bit, but not enough in those strategies. So for this, there is other approaches that has been coming this recent year. For instance, there is this donut of social and planetary that has been done by Kate Raworth. Here it's nice because it's the same approach of environment, society, and economy, but it puts really names and it goes a bit deeper in what are the planetary boundaries, so you can have the visibility. When we talk about environment and planets, we are talking about this aspect, the ocean acidification, chemical pollution, fresh water, land conversion, air pollution, etc. And when we talk about the social foundation, it's about all the activity that we are we need to also sustain ourselves, and the way we will consume water, the system that we are building around food, health, education will influence directly the impact that we have on the other dimensions. Another way to think about sustainability is to think about what is not sustainable, and I think there is many writers on this topic. There is some community more radical that has been put and highlight a lot of paradoxes on sustainability, and I just mentioned two books which really changed a bit my view on this at the time. I started studying it. It was The Limit to Growth, which has been updated recently, and The Tool for Conviviality. And just to mention the last one, which is Tool for Conviviality, what Ivan Illich is doing in this book is to look at what is in it, a bit the threat of sustainability. So it's not just about looking at the biological degradation of and the environmental impact that are generated by our society, but there is also other dimension more related to our way of relating to each other. And just to name a bit, without going in detail, but when we talk about radical monopoly, overprogramming, polarization, obsolescence, it's a question. When you go in the book, you will see it's about distribution of power, is about the right for learning, it's about the right for being able to do locally things, and also, of course, to not to diminish and reduce the obsolescence of product, but also of thought now. So it's quite interesting to think about what is unsustainable and to see also all the other scenario when we talk about sustainability, which exists. So also something I wanted to share because I think it's more recent and maybe much more in line also with the Fab City approach. It's the regenerative design approach, meaning I put some extract of a book of Daniel Wall and all the work that is being done within this community. What is interesting when we talk about regenerative is that we think with living system understanding, we try to have less energy required for the system that we have. So it's beyond technology. It's the regenerative economy is not just about artifact technology. It's about how we bring local collaboration, how individuals could be integrated as co-creative participants. There is the sentence is to free ourselves from the mindset of scarcity and competition. At some point, it's also not talking just about utilitarian value to humanity, so what you need, but also like really expanding the value that also offer the humanity and life. And for this, the idea is to focus on bioregions and to look at people, place, and to work on what could be regenerated in terms not only, as I was mentioning, on how you restore, for instance, an ecosystem that has been destroyed, but also ourselves as individuals, how we could work on our own symptom of the current model, so we can be much more empathic and maybe connected to nature. And yeah, well, all of this, the idea is really to re-regionalize and to not create local bubble, but having always this connection with global collaboration, with the solidarity mindset, which is quite important also when you see the recent event, to see and to keep this in mind when we talk about regenerative, is to do collectively something that maybe balance better, distribute better the wealth that we have on the planet. So just now to focus a bit and to go more into the topic and practice, because it's super theoretic now. When you want to really work on sustainable world and sustainability, there is the system thinking that is really relevant for that. And this illustration, it's a big infographic that is super nice to see, also just to be aware of the trap that is already present in when we talk about circular economy, sustainability, and to try to understand better and be more relevant on the field. So here, for instance, the slide on the left is about when you to illustrate the system thinking, is that you will start by looking at the situation. You will try to dig and see what are the elements, try to find the different interaction between these elements. And at the end, you will start to see that each element has been done in different places with different people. And you have a complex map that is emerging from a situation. And this is a bit also at some point simple to see it like this, but we do not do this effort enough in our society to look back and to zoom out and to really understand together our different representation. So what I propose to you today is just to help to have this kind of changing the mindset that we have, the way we see things. And I think when you are designing a process or you are engaged in whatever, it's an architectural project, a design project, more products, or like already like a city plan, it's interesting to see and to pick in your mind and to think about new heuristic. What we name heuristic is like mental shortcuts that can really help you to see things differently and to have some decision. And yeah, so what I wanted to say also, and I think you can realize it, that visual mapping is really a tool that is useful for systemic design. It helps us to inform about our shared mental models, and it's a bit done in a different way than over discipline. The idea is really to join the point of view of the different discipline and to modelize at some point, use drawing, mapping, network analysis to do that. So just we can zoom in life cycle thinking, circular thinking, multiscalar thinking, causal thinking, and well, dialogical and network thinking. So life cycle thinking, I will take some time to explain a bit this one, because you will also have an activity after that could also be relevant for that. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I think it's quite present in practice now, but when you think about a product, a service or system, when you think about the life cycle, is to think about all the process that engage with the product. So from the resource extraction, from the manufacturing and the production, the distribution, transportation, use, consumption, to the end of life recycling, when there is recycling. And the idea with the life cycle is when you have a, I don't know, for instance, a product, like it could be a glass, you look at the glass and you see the different materials and you try to understand how it was, the material, how it was provided. No? So you think about the extraction of resource, what kind of manufacturer already work on that, how it was transported. After, when the use is really the time you spend to with the object, and there is here a lot of work on how we can optimize at some point the use phases, and of course after what is becoming after the use. So each time when we talk about life cycle thinking and assessment, it's about listing in each step the different the different aspects that you are using into the process. So classically, you do a process with box, with input output. You look at what is the energy, the materials, the waste, and you list in a quantitative way all of this, and after that you have like an inventory of impacts of the inventory analysis, and after this is transmitted to some software that can help you to really understand how this activity that you are doing is impacting on different dimensions that you were seeing in the previous slide, which is the one we also define a bit like planetary boundary. So you can look at how your system is impacting acidification, eutrophication, heavy metal, pesticide, etc. And there is different way to do it. You can do it like a quantitative analysis that I was mentioning, with defining the scope, doing the inventory, looking at the graph that as you can see on the right is this type of graph that is coming out from software, where you can interpret a bit and see, oh, it's this that generate the more impact, or this is a bit less, and you can after try to define some strategy of eco-design to improve the design of this product, to have less, for instance, water consumption in your process. But there is also other type of tools that are much more simple and can be used more in the early stage of design and innovation. This is two examples here, which are the MET matrix and the leads wheel. So the MET matrix is for you to help to really understand, analyze for each step of the life cycle, but super simplify, like the production, the use, and the disposal, how you consume materials, how you consume energy, and what are the elements of toxicity that you embed in your process. So here it's more like it could be in a group or individually, you reflect on your product and you put all the elements you can write and get to know, have a better understanding of the way it influences your life cycle. And the second one is more like a classic one, the leads wheel. It's a set of recommendations at different level for eco-design practices. So after the life cycle thinking is something super old, but it's super important, I think, to start by that. But now we have also many other type of thinking that is coming with and many graph. I think for the circular thinking, what is interesting to look at, I don't know if you know the model, but it's quite circulating a lot in our design environments now. So there is this butterfly diagram from the Helen MacArthur Foundation and the Great Recovery diagram. What is important in circular thinking is about the focus a bit on the fact to close the loop and to see waste as a resource, and all what we name the air. So all the repair, reuse, refurbish, remanufacturing, recycle principle that also have a hierarchy in itself, and you have it's much more like encouraged when you talk about circular economy to start thinking about how you can extend the longevity, the durability of your product. So maybe doing some sharing during the use that you can extend really without modifying the product, and after you can repair it, you can find a way to upcycle, and of course at the end it has to guarantee that ever it could be recycled, or if it's a natural renewable part, you can also think about how it could be regenerated in energy or in materials. I'm going quite fast now on the other way of thinking. What is important beyond having this knowledge about the limitation of resources and the life cycle thinking, closing the loop, etc., is also to see that this could be done at different scale. And you can focus at one moment on one scale, but even in this scale, you will be connected to the other scale. So it's always interesting to exchange and to sometimes situating a lot, crossing scale and zoom in, zoom out. It is something that is super present, and sometimes we are locked in the particular context, and when we just talk to some other initiative with maybe pair learning, we can really well, be unlocked and go in another step of bringing the process in another direction. Causal thinking, this is super classic in system thinking. This one is the causal diagram, and it's super interesting as an exercise for our brain also to do that when you are you have a phenomena and you try to understand all the interdependence with other concepts, how one thing can positively or negatively influence the other one. I really recommend you to test this kind of thinking and to know more about that. It could be used really as a simulation, as a starting point for system dynamic modelization. So you can see after really system changes with computer, etc. But you can also use it just to help you to understand your own representation and the representation of other to map one specific concept. So it's super easy to start. You just put something on the middle of the screen and you start thinking about concepts that are related and how each time it influences positively, negatively, or is it influencing in the same direction or not. So quite interesting thinking. The other one that I would just mention is about dialogical thinking, and it's relating to the complexity approach that has been worked with some French author like Edgar Morin. It's the idea that we need to live with opposition, with paradoxes, and to embrace complexity. So this is super important when you are in a design process and you are managing or you are trying to understand different perspectives in your ecosystem of stakeholder. You will see opposition. You will see that you cannot solve every tension, but it's something that with the dialogical thinking, you can better redirect and address in a different way. And finally, the network thinking is something that is also well developed thanks to the social media and also the link direct that we do with the social network analysis. It's a bit like seeing everything as noded interaction. So you see on the map, and you have seen, I guess, many of these kind of map. You can see nodes and connection between nodes, and you can also look at different concepts. Nodes could be people, domains, it could be tweets, it could be anything, and the interaction also could be different type of flow, different type of exploration. It could be environmental, for instance, the materials, it could be the energy, etc. And when you have this view, you can also look and see the evolution of the network. You can think about how the proximity between things. So really interesting to look. And there is some tools for doing network analysis that could be accessible for designer and over like much more complex. The one I mentioned, which was QMU.io, is quite used in our community. I will go fast on the other parts, I think, because we don't have so much time. The idea of this part was just to share with you also that it's really important when we talk about all this super big way of thinking and about sustainability to see concretely in your intervention how it could be integrated and what is the role. So the idea here is really to think about maybe reflect, if you have time later, what kind of design approach do you really have? What is design for you? And how you already integrate sustainability inside. And we will see that each time you redefine, each intervention you will redesign, you will have to ask the what, the where, the with who you are doing it, and ask yourself why, and you can connect the why with the sustainability approach that we have seen before. There's some processes, because for it's processes I have used to work with. Don't see design processes as linear, but this one is a classic early stage design. So it's like when you talk about design thinking, is a bit this, that is when we talk about design, is about trying to analyze context, reframing problem, having some envisioning alternatives, looking at some new ideas. And once you have the ideas, you can start developing, prototyping, and it's making a loop, and sometimes it's all interconnected. But this, what could be interesting to note, is really non-linear, and the processes that we are designing are context-based, and it's important to look at this. It is a much more old processes, a product design process, and it was inside the design for sustainability approach. I went some really old processes to look at that, but I think also if you really want to work on eco-design and sustainability approach, it is the way companies are working. And as a consultant or as more designer inside a company, you will have some policy or process to follow to engage with sustainability. And since 20 years now, there is a lot of existing things inside. So it's about knowing the process, etc. Yes. So I think just to finish this part, there is a lot of method and tools for sustainability. I didn't go through all today because it's really a lot. I recommend you this toolkit that lists a lot of design tools that also are related to the type of thinking I was mentioning. What is important when you are thinking of sustainable design, how to do sustainable design, it's to use the tools to try to integrate them and to look at your process and to see when it's the best and what is the best and relevant. So be like customizing. The most important thing I could say is that it's more than ever important to connect and work with appropriate stakeholders. So mapping the stakeholder that you have, and especially on environmental issue, to work with experts in the LCA domains is quite key, even if sometimes it's a bit hard because it's like with a higher level of development that you can contact with them. I think you learn a lot from them, and also sometimes it's just informing you on something you already know, but it's helping. Of course, let's space for experimentation and don't be afraid by the critics. Sometimes when you are in the sustainable design process, you think of you do your vision at the beginning. Well, I want a sustainable process because I will do that. But after all along the process you are designing, you forget about this and you try sometime to avoid the critics. And it's important, I think, that we care about that. And it's maybe sometimes it's a bit tricky to enter an impact assessment in those domains, but it's important to at least to have like guardians for sustainability all along the process. Do I have time to share the cases, or better we stop here?
Maybe you want to share one. Would that be okay? Just to
show
like
a synthesis, if you want.
Oh, a synthesis, as you prefer.
Okay. Yeah. After you will have access to the presentation, but I think, and also you will reflect on some cases with environmental impact. So I think it's something that you can do afterward. The 3 cases I used was on different scale and with different. It was with the objective of thinking what is sustainable design and why it is, why is not, and how in all these cases the way we design the intervention from the design perspective help to improve the yes, or maybe contribute also to the no. So it is not only good example, it's in each example, there is always a way to find something that is still need to be explored. So the first one was about a jacket that was following an eco-design approach. The second one was about the project Remix El Barrio with the food waste material maker. So this is one, it was from the product to the district and the design of materials at the district level. And the last case was about architecture and regenerative architecture with also urban rural development. And maybe just to finish with these cases, that it was this one, and the idea of this was to build a connection inside a natural area that was destroyed in the past, using this lake that you can see on the photo as a connecting point to other villages that are still sustainable and like are working actively, economically, etc. And they decided to do this building at the middle of nowhere to connect this. And they won the prize in terms of architectural design. And just my feeling about that, and I think it's a bit this kind of thinking that we need to have when we talk about sustainability, is understanding the reason of the designer for doing such a process, and also understanding the reaction that we have. Because I mean, my first impression was, why doing something so big inside the natural landscape? And after, when you see a bit the ambition, the context, the nature, you see that there is so much to bring on that you at least balance all of that. But I think this also was a case, it's not real, that is just a prospective design of what could be the area. So it was also for making people reacting on what they want to do with that. So it's really activism at some point, and try to understand that, do a dialogue with different stakeholders to see and push what we really want in terms of changes. And I think this case worked well, because you can discuss many topics just with these two diagrams that you see on the screen, and it's embed a lot of topic of sustainability. So sorry if I've been too long. The last slide is just a bit of a play with the word of the title of the presentation, sustainable design. It's embedding sustainability on the practice, but also it's showing the importance of design and practitioner, and to think how we as designer could be sustained. And I think it's always nice to ask those questions. What is the role of design in society? How to support designer in finding their place in society and sustaining this position. And I think it's also a matter of sustainability here. And also, once we have good position and we are quite stabilized, always asking ourselves about the limits of design and what are we doing, in favor of sustainability, or what to avoid for the sake of sustainability. Thanks a lot for you. And I really recommend this diagram and this infographic. I can share on the chat now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for having the time to be here today and present your work. It's really nice. I know there's a lot, like a lot to take in, which is so amazing. We're going to share the presentation in a moment. I'm going to check for the link now. So please feel free to deep dive into the presentation from Marianne during the week, to look up more on the links that she has provided and the topics that she has provided. I think there are a lot of interesting things in there that could be inspirational for your work later on. From the people who are here, are there any questions which are for Marianne?
Mọi người ơi, bây giờ mọi người có thể đặt câu hỏi cho diễn giả. Buổi hôm nay thì cũng hơi nhiều lý thuyết. Chắc là mình cũng cố gắng, đang cố gắng là thẩm thấu càng nhiều càng tốt, nhưng mà chắc là cũng hơi khó trong một cái thời gian ngắn như vậy, thì mọi người cứ từ từ tham khảo những cái ví dụ hay là cái bài trình bày của cô đó, xong cái này thì chắc là không thể tiếp thu hết trong ngày 1, ngày 2, mà mình cứ đi từng bước vậy. Marianne, some participants here have find it challenging to absorb all the knowledge that you have shared with us within such a short time. And maybe, later they can take a look at your slides and try to understand more. But for now, I'd like to ask, what would be like some practical tips for people who work in maker spaces or fab labs to adopt sustainable design, because sometimes like we get so busy with making and we get so also very excited about say for example making something new, buying new electronics. How do we account for the sustainability of our actions?
Yeah, this is a big topic, but for sure, what I present is a big, large scale, and I think all the tips can be integrated also in the maker practice. And I saw in the 4 years that I participate in some activity that it's really hard when you are making to really integrate all these dimensions. So there is, after, like in practice, what you will do after is you look at the design and the thing that you are making, and you try already to understand the impact that each product have, where does it come from, the materials that you have, if you can maybe change some materials so it could be less impact, there is less impact, maybe less transport, classic things at the product level that really but sometimes you cannot, and you are like you have some provider that come from far away, and you cannot really so it's a matter of that, I think. And after, what I like especially is to do collective activity, trying to mobilize in the Fab Lab with your colleague, doing some topic focused, and to see, for instance, there is nice activity on repair when you are in the Fab Labs in Makerspace that are quite powerful, because when you look at repair and how you dismantle the product, you still have this dimension of making, participating, but at the same time you are building your knowledge on how maybe it could be designed better, so it could be repairable. So it's by practice like this at small scale that we can do that. And after, there is other projects, maybe more inter-lab research projects where we can foster more knowledge on that. And I think the distributed design one is one of we can say the playground for sharing about sustainable practice, and helping maybe the doubt or the question that you have internally to share it, having a space for that. And just to mention maybe the tools that I was mentioning, for instance, the life cycle assessment, or this kind of tools that are from the Fab Lab community that I know, we still didn't pass this gap to really collaborate with some expert on the field, because sometimes the project is not enough developed, or we don't have all the chain, or we just don't have funding. So we cannot go forward. And after, just to finish, I think we are promoting a new vision with this Fab City and all this local production scenario. And at some point, I think already sharing those narratives and see how it is connecting with other action that you have locally in your environment is already something super interesting. And if you, I don't know if this project we had with Remix El Barrio, that it's just connecting with the restaurant, the neighborhoods, and to see what they can do together, and having discussion, a long discussion about about what is most sustainable, or what why to do that and not that when you are doing materials making. Should I use this product from this chemical pharmacy when I can maybe find another way, or like, yeah, trying to better understand all the scale at the end, like the material impact, the way you can improve the design and maybe the modularity of products, and the way to interact with different scale after with the community and the labs. And it's already a big challenge. So yeah, that's the answer I have for you.
Thanks, Marion.
Yeah, and as Marion has just mentioned, the exercise we're doing afterwards is really trying to situate a bit what we've just learned in a very practical way, as much as we can. We will introduce the exercise later, but we have some example products which we will try to analyze about their materiality and how they're made and all of these things that Marion just mentioned. And maybe what are the things that we would change when we would make it in our local makerspace, or what are the changes we should take what are the things that we should take into consideration when designing it. So for example, when making a new product, maybe I have to actually design it with other people because they are for a specific target audience. So all of these things we're going to discuss a bit more in detail in our exercise later. Are there any more questions? Otherwise, I would suggest to take a bio break until 10 after 9, I think, for your local time, and then come back together, and then we'll meet and do the exercise in Miro. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's good. Mọi người ơi, bây giờ mình có 10 phút để nghỉ giải lao sinh học, bio break. Bạn có thể quay lại lúc 9:10 để mình làm bài tập chung.
Great. Thank you, Marion, so much for your time. It was a very inspiring presentation. And thanks for sharing all these tools as well. I think they will be very useful to check them out. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for inviting. And yeah, I think it needs the time for digesting. Sorry if it was too much, but yeah, I think it's nice to have a big view, so you have content, and now you do what you want with your own practice to shape this process towards sustainability. So thanks, bye-bye all, and have a good meeting after.
Thank you. See you all in 8 minutes. So, hello, hello, for the ones who are here. Let's give it another minute for Mai also to come back. Oh, she's already there. I just saw now that your message as well. So Daphne is here again as well with me. And before going ahead to the exercise, I know we're a bit less than last time. I hope we didn't scare anyone off. And it's just about availability during the week at this late hour. In any case, as usual, everything is available. The presentation as well as the recording afterwards on the local platform that you're using. Hilo, I believe is the name. And so if there's any questions that might come up throughout the week, also from the people who not been able to attend, we're more than happy to answer any of those questions and to support finding any of the material that is needed to follow up with the topics discussed. So what we're going to do now is to join on our lovely Miro board again that we used last week. I'm going to share the link. And I'm going to share my screen. And maybe we can give a brief introduction to the exercise. Daphne, do you want to do this or should I do this? Just let me know.
Yeah, I can do it. We've prepared two canvases that are themed around what Marion was talking in her presentation now. So the idea is to select, we also have selected some projects from the distributed design platform. So each one of you can, I don't know if we will do it in groups or individually now because you're less people, but we can decide later. And you can select one project and start analyzing this particular project according to the different thematics that all have to do with sustainable design and systemic design. This is an example. I'm sorry if it's noisy. This is an example. It's really very simple. It's just trying to a bit dissect and understand the project beyond its basic principles and going a little bit deeper on the systemic approach or the repercussions that each project has. And yes, that's it, more or less. I don't know, Jesse, you want to add something?
Yes, I always just have to find my unmute button again when I'm sharing the screen. So yeah, if you want, we can maybe just guide you one time through the example. So to make it a bit more clearer maybe, or more easy to understand, as Daphne just mentioned, to go through each of these topics, right? So for example, for this one, we have chosen a permanent marker, a pen. Then in the first section, what you would do is describing a bit what the function behind the product is. So what is it? What does it do? In this case, it's a waterproof marker to write. Then you would talk about and think about what are the different types of materials which are actually being involved in making this specific product. So if you look at, for example, at your headphones or the markers, or what is included there, maybe there's different types of plastic, maybe there's different types of wood, maybe you have to color it, maybe there's some kind of electronics part of that. In the next step in manufacturing, and the canvas on the right is also translated into Vietnamese, so maybe that will help you as well to guide through the steps. You would think about how is this product manufactured. So for example, the plastic is injection molded, and some parts of talking about headphones, for example, would be sewn. And don't worry if you don't have all of the answers to this. This is a very hypothetical and big, like just like a small exercise really to just to get the head around what it means to talk about sustainable practices. So when you normally buy a product as a permanent marker or headphones, they're normally also packaged in some ways. So this is also a thing to take into consideration when we're trying to work more sustainable in our design practice. So here you can see they talk about the cardboard packaging. That includes that some kind of tree has to be used to make actually cardboard that is also transported by truck afterwards, or by plane, or by ship. And then within afterwards, when the user is actually engaging with the product, there might be some new materials that are needed for that. So for example, if you're using the pen itself, it's functioning on its own, but what you actually need is, for example, a piece of paper. So this is something that would be missing here. So there's again another material that would be involved within the user phase. And then the last one, I know we always talk about recycling, but that doesn't always happen in reality. So what is the most likely point where the product that you have will end up? So this is like the first exercise that we can do. So I'm going over to show you some of the products that we have collected. Daphne made a really nice collection of projects here. So you see these are mostly from distributed design, as well as one is from Wikifactory. And they already have in mind somewhat of sustainable practices. So they are also for to inspire you in your work, obviously. But it's still nice to try to dig a bit deeper what materials are being used for each of them. What are, as I said, potential packaging? What is a potential involved manufacturing processes? And you can just click on them directly. You see then here a little arrow that says source. And it will bring you to the page where it talks about the project. So that can help you to find more information. For example, here with the Wikifactory one, it also talks, it shows a bit, it takes a moment. It shows a bit of the material, for example, here as well. So that can help you. And if you do not find the exact material, don't worry. Write something down that you think could be represented. For example, just plastic instead of acrylic, or just wood, or something that that you think is included. This doesn't have to be right. It's just about doing the exercise itself. So I hope this is somewhat clear. And as I said, here's a translation of the exercise. I hope this makes somewhat sense. And you are more than invited, everyone, now to I'm gonna share my screen, to join this Miro board and choose whichever of the projects you like. Read a bit on it, or just look at the pictures and maybe try to identify from the picture what kind of products and materials are involved. And then choose one of the canvases you see below, and just by using post-it notes, write a bit on what you see, what you think is included, what materials, what processes. And then we would meet again in like 10 to 15 minutes, and maybe we can share a bit what we've seen. Would that work? Hopefully this is clear. If not, I can rephrase.
Yeah, please let us know if you have any questions. And if someone has another project in mind or a past project of theirs, also it would be great. So you don't have to limit in this project we provided. Is there just examples?
Yes.
Do we pick any of the examples and
yes, you may choose
it for...
yeah, exactly. You may choose any one, or you can use, as Daphne just said, one of the ones that you may have yourself. Maybe you have one project documented, or at least a picture of it, and then just add a picture of that project onto next to the canvas. And try to do the exercise for your personal project or project you've done in your makerspace or whatsoever.
Got it. And what if two people choose the same example? That's okay? Or?
Of course, they can also join if you want. You can just unmute yourself here and also talk a bit together if you choose the same thing. There's no limits to this.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Mọi người ơi, bây giờ mình sẽ chuyển qua Miro để làm bài tập nha. Ở trên đó mọi người kéo xuống cái phần bài tập cho ngày 21 là hôm nay á, thì nó sẽ có những cái gọi là tấm bảng life cycle canvas. Thì đây là một cái khuôn khổ mà gồm có 6 cái cột, và mỗi cái cột thì nó sẽ nói về một cái giai đoạn trong vòng đời của sản phẩm hay là dự án. Mình có thể chọn một cái sản phẩm hoặc là một cái dự án nào đó mà bạn đang làm luôn cũng có thể, hoặc là nếu mà không thì ở phía trên có mấy cái gợi ý về các cái dự án để mình có thể chọn một trong những cái đó. Và nếu mà bạn có thể chọn bất kỳ cái ví dụ nào mà bạn quan tâm, và nếu mà hai người mà cùng chọn một cái thì có thể làm chung một tấm bảng. Khi mà mình điền thông tin đó, thì mình có thể dùng những cái sticker note. Cái sticky note thì nó ở phía bên bên trái có một cái cột mà nó có cái icon sticky note, thì mọi người cứ bấm vào đó, hoặc là mình có thể copy một cái sticky note nào đó rồi kéo nó về bảng của mình cũng được. Ok, cơ bản về cái bài tập nó là như vậy. Nếu mà bạn nào có câu hỏi gì thì có thể bật mic lên và nói. Okay, I've just explained what the exercise.
Chị cho em hỏi cái ạ. Là cái này thì là em tức là không lấy theo những cái topic mà ở bên trên đặt, cũng kiểu cái này là kiểu mình tự nhiên mình có một cái idea nên mình thực ra cũng không phải là idea mà nói về một vấn đề nào đấy tự mình nghĩ ra được không ạ? Đấy
được. Thì bạn có thể đặt tên cho cái idea đó.
Dạ vâng.
Cảm ơn tôi.
If you need any support in between and have questions, let us know. Mai, Daphne, and I are here for any other questions that might come up.
Có bạn nào cần hỗ trợ gì thì cứ bật mic lên nói nha. Nếu mà bạn cần mình dịch cái ví dụ các cái ví dụ ở trên ra thì bạn cứ giơ tay luôn.
So let's take maybe 5 more minutes to wrap this up. And if there's anyone who would be like to share their process, they may do. Obviously, one welcome to do it in Vietnamese. And if not, we're just going to explain the second part of the exercise, however the participants in this room feel like.
Chúng ta sẽ hoàn thành bài tập này trong vòng 5 phút nữa nha mọi người. Sau đó mình có thể chia sẻ bằng tiếng Việt hoặc là tiếng Anh.
So I see the canvases are slowly being filled in. I'm gonna leave it for another minute because I see there's like some nice progress right now and I want to give you some more time, but you will also have more time when practicing this hopefully in the future. So one more minute and then we can come together in the Zoom room. Okay, so would there be anyone who would like to share their project in 2-3 minutes, or should we go ahead and explain the second part of the exercise? So,
có bạn nào có thể bật mic và chia sẻ về cái sản phẩm mà bạn chọn không? Thấy tối vẫn miệt mài ở Điền Phong. Không biết là Xuân Ngoẫn hay là Ngọc Linh có chia sẻ gì không?
no worries.
You will go maybe.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Sorry, I just back from. Okay. So do I need to share my screen or like? I think we can come down to the.
I can.
Life cycle kind of task 4. Yeah, task 4, and then we can see. Yeah.
Perfect. So down here.
Yep.
Perfect. Let's go ahead. Thank you.
And so I have a look at this project, and it's like a solar desalinization skylight, and well, it's done by an architect like me, so it's quite interesting. And yeah, he's doing like his version of making a light boat within a house, but it's not like electrical power, but it's like powered by sunlight, and also it do another function which is like turning salt water into like water, drinking water. And so yeah, it's more like yeah, it's really like a design project that look beautiful, and then it's functional at the same time, and they use is using for like community where the electric is not available. And so yeah, from what I see is because they need to use like sunlight as the main power and the main resource as well, and then also seawater and so. And from what I read, is like they have 2 versions. Which one is like this beautiful design one, and then I'm not sure where they make it, but maybe it's in a Fab Lab somewhere, and then they bring it here to the community, which already have like all the thing function inside, and this is gonna turn like a salt water into water, drinking water. That is a high-tech version that they use, and they mentioned that they're gonna also have like a lower tech version, which also can use like recycle bottle and then can or knife and tape, into manufacture this in a lower tech version. I don't have any information how they move it around, but from what I see, it's quite small, so it's actually can be easily to be moved. Yeah. And the use, of course, is to create like diffuse nature lighting. It's providing a well lighting environment for the rooms, reducing electricity, and then over 12-hour period, they can produce like 540 milliliter purified water. So it's I think it's good enough for like a family to drink. And from what I see is, but it's yeah, from my experience as well, is like 3D print product is not gonna last like extremely long with like, especially with like salt water as well inside. And then there's also like electrical part as well. It's not working well with salt water. That two things, it doesn't go well with each other. So it's a nice design project, but yeah, I have no information how it's gonna last, and maybe for a couple of years. And it's very difficult to replace the thing inside and repair. Not sure if it's easy for the community to actually repair it after a while, and they may change it to a easier solution. And maybe later on we have electricity, and then they can remove it. But yeah, I think it's nice, a very beautiful ideas, and it's functional for a while, and it can work temporarily for like a community which maybe after earthquake, like any disaster, they don't really have like electricity at the moment, and then they can just use this for a while as well. This can work.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing your reflection. Super good. So yeah, you already mentioned really nice topics. So this is already a distributed design project, which is already taking into consideration the end user, as well as trying to use digital fabrication methods. But still there are obviously some limitations to it. As you mentioned, the life cycle, the longevity of the electronic projects, parts with the electrical parts. So really, really nice reflections there. And that's why we shared this, because these different steps, they really help you to identify also for your own project, sometimes things that you might not considered in the first prototype or in the first iteration of your work. Also what you mentioned, really take into consideration who's the end user. In this case, maybe a vulnerable community. They might not have the skills to repair what you are suggesting for them to have as a product. So this is really, really great reflection. Thank you so much for sharing this. So let's move on just to quickly in 5 minutes. We don't have to finish this exercise, don't worry. We're just gonna go and take a look at this kind of, it's called Eco Design Strategy Wheel, but it's kind of like an evaluation. It's based on some research from the past, but it's still very valid today. So when we're looking at a product that we have chosen, in this case, for example, the lamp or any other one that you've brought yourself, it's really valuable to look into different aspects and their impact. So we have here, for example, number one is the material selection, and then you can rate on that wheel how big the impact of that is or how little, and that goes from material usage to production techniques, end of life system. That's something you mentioned just now, Man, about that maybe the community who is using this product might not be able to repair it in the end. So all of these kind of things. So what you can do really briefly, you don't have to finish this, and you don't have to use the line tool. You can use also a dot, for example, if you want to indicate like this, for example. There's many ways on how to do this. You could also just use dots to indicate the positioning of it. So for example, like this, and do this for the same product that you have chosen. So let me rephrase it maybe really quick. Take the product you have and use the strategy wheel to give a score for each of the mentioned topics here: material selection, material usage, etc., etc. And you don't have to finish this. You can just start and explore.
One question, Jessica, when do I need to use the dot?
So if you look, I'm gonna just share my screen. I think it's easier to share the screen while doing this. I'm just gonna make an example, maybe that helps. So I've chosen the lamp, this lamp over here. It's called Leaf. So I'm gonna do an assessment on how high the environmental impact each of these topics are for my product. So is the material we're using, for example, is the product using clean renewable energy? Is it recyclable? And I'm gonna say, well, it uses raw materials, it's plastic, so I'm not that fond of that. So it has like a high impact. So I'm gonna bring it really close to the center because it has a high impact. But then maybe the material, because it's plastic, actually has a longevity. It's like very durable. So in the terms of long, and it's quite, let's say, what does it ask here? It asks is the weight affecting, for example, the transportation is very light sheets. So that I would say is quite okay. So I can give the score of like medium. So you can just go through each of the topics here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and score with a high impact closer to the center and a low impact closer to the outer circle. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna leave this on.
Thank you.
No worries. I'm just gonna share my screen while doing this, and if there's any questions, I'm available.
Trong bài tập thứ 2 về bánh xe thiết kế cho bánh xe thiết kế eco hay là thân thiện với môi trường thì mọi người sẽ dùng cái bảng ngay cạnh cái bảng cho bài tập trước và mình đánh giá cái sản phẩm đó theo 8 cái tiêu chí này, và cứ mỗi một cái tiêu chí thì mọi người cho nó một cái hình tròn. So the highest score is on the outside of the wheel, right?
If you prefer it like this, you can do it to the outside of it. I personally turn now with the center, but that's completely a point of view. So you can use either the inside or the outside, just be consistent throughout the whole exercise.
Okay, cool. Theo cô Jessica thì cái nào mà gần trọng tâm nhất thì nó tốt hơn, tức là điểm sẽ cao hơn á.
So I know you have not been able to finish this exercise. It's a bit short on time, but please feel free to further play with this throughout the week. Finally, I'm just going to share one thing with you. And I think that was also asked before in our conversation with Marion, is that are there any tips and tricks I can take into consideration when designing myself in my respective creative or productive space? So we've shared these design considerations also in the Miro board, which might help you for your design process. I'm not sure about the translation. I hope Mai maybe can take a look at it at one point. However, if the translation in Vietnamese is not so well, you can also take a look here as it is over here in English, if that might be clearer. So please feel free to use this at any moment, also after the academy, when you're in the design contest, to come back to this exercise and come back also to this reflection tool to guide you in your process and making your design more sustainable. I'm going to stop sharing. So the Miro board, as I mentioned, will always be available. Are there any questions from the group? Yes, please.
The first very point was, does it need to be made?
Correct.
What? Are you discouraging people to come up with clever ideas?
No. But
I thought that was funny. Does it need to be made?
I think there's always a good reflection to have, because I mean, especially like in Fab Labs, for example, we love to 3D print things, and it's fun and it's nice, but we have to take into some consideration when we're trying to be more sustainable that this also is a material usage, right? We're also using like extracting oil for making plastic to make the specific things. So it's a good question to ask. If you think you still want to make this, then there are good questions afterwards to be like, maybe I can use a biomaterial, or maybe I can use recycled filament. So if you really want to go ahead with your fun idea, then there are, I think, ways how to do it in a bit more sustainable manner, maybe.
Good point.
Are there any other questions from the group?
I have a question. So we're encouraging people to come up with creative ideas for, related to Hanoi cultural heritage. So what if they have all these crazy ideas, but they think, well, it doesn't pass the first question. How does it?
That's a good one. I think this is a good question to ask in a group rather than on yourself, because I think maybe we have really great ideas and then we're maybe critical with ourselves and maybe intimidated by a question that was brought up from Fab Lab Barcelona. And then I think it's really valuable to bring this question to a group, to your peers, and also maybe to the community you want to maybe make your product for or make your idea for. Because that is when we can answer that question maybe with more of a context. Because when we have an idea for a product that, for example, the one that Man has chosen, the lamp that uses no electricity, if we're doubting if it's useful and needed, then maybe talk with that community and ask them actually, do you think this is useful for you? And then it takes a bit more time, but that maybe helps in your process.
So community validation helps.
Yeah, no, I mean, putting the question in that context makes a lot of sense, of course, because if the end user doesn't accept the product, it is even stupid to try to make it, because you have wasted all your time and efforts and you will not have any takers.
Yes, that's why we're actually going to talk. It's going to be our last session, unfortunately, but it's called collaborative processes. And we're actually going to talk about co-designing with community members, like how to manage with different stakeholders, different ideas. So that might also help a bit more for this question that you just mentioned, to navigate that question.
Thank you. Có bạn nào cần mình dịch câu hỏi rồi không? Thì Mai mới hỏi là bác Shell cũng có chia sẻ là cái câu hỏi đầu tiên ở trong cái những cái yếu tố mà mình cần cân nhắc là cái ý tưởng này có cần phải được thực hiện hay không. Và nếu mà nó không, mình không tự thuyết phục được bản thân là nó cần được cho ra đời thì có thể là cái ý tưởng này không nên được làm. Nhưng mà có một cái cô Jessica cũng vừa chia sẻ thêm là nhiều khi là mình có rất là nhiều cái ý tưởng mà mình nghĩ là tuyệt vời, nhưng mà có thể là cái đối tượng mà mình đang hướng đến họ chưa chắc đã thật sự là cần nó, thì mình nên trao đổi thêm với lại cái end user hay là cái người dùng mà mình hướng đến, xem thử là họ cảm thấy như thế nào về cái ý tưởng của mình. Thì nếu mà họ thực sự thích và họ cảm thấy là cái đó có giá trị thì mình nên làm.
Thank you, Mai. Well, I think this is all for today. We're already 3 minutes over time. I'm sorry for that. We'll try to be more in time next time. I know it's late for you all. Any last words from anyone, Daphne, or anyone from the group who would like to share something?
No, I just want to thank everyone for participating and see you next week.
Thank you, Daphne. Great, then.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jessica.
Great.
And also the participants for your great sharing.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And yeah, we'll try to bring more practical exercises for next week as well. That hopefully will be useful. Amazing.
Các bạn ơi, đến đây là kết thúc buổi học ngày thứ hai rồi, và cái phần bài tập mà mình chưa có hoàn thành thì mình có thể làm trong sau cái buổi này, trong những ngày tới cũng được, trước cái buổi tiếp theo. Có bạn nào có câu hỏi gì cho Jessica nữa không? Nếu không thì mình có thể kết thúc tại đây. Cảm ơn mọi người đã thức khuya để mà cùng tham gia.
Before we leave, excuse me. Before I leave, I wondered where can I reach out for the presenter today to asking more questions about the topic. So should we use the Hoi platform, the platform that you sent us? Should I like write her the private email or something like that?
Do you think everyone can just share any questions on the platform and then we can collect them and I can send them then together to Marion? So I think it would be good because Marion is super busy to not send her all different emails, but just throughout the week to collect them. And then I'm happy to forward them to her. And maybe if she has time, she will directly answer you via email. Would that be okay?
Sure.
And she might be involved in the mentoring afterwards as well in October or in autumn, let's say it like that. And so if there's more in detail questions, she will be there also available for the design contest participants who move forward with their project within this framework. There she will be also again available for more support.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Vậy thì nếu mà ai còn có câu hỏi gì cho diễn giả lúc nãy cô Marion thì mọi người có thể post trên Hilo xong rồi mình sẽ tập hợp lại và gửi cho cô đó. Trong cái giai đoạn dự án sau cái khóa học này thì cô Marion cũng có thể sẽ mentor. Thì lúc đó mình có cơ hội để hỏi thêm các cái câu hỏi xung quanh cái dự án. Vậy buổi hôm nay đến đây là kết thúc. Cảm ơn mọi người nhiều nha. Chúc mọi người ngủ ngon. Yeah, it's pretty late for us, so I think everyone is happy to say good night.
I think so too. Let's talk next week, and just please reach out at any moment to me. I've shared again an email there, so no worries for any more questions. Yeah. Okay.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Good night.
Good night. Bye bye.
Good night. Bye bye guys.
Bye mọi người.